Natalia also Utecho is your chair for the next 1 hour. Natalia, I'm going to hand it over to you and leave the session in your very capable hands.
I appreciate that.
Good morning.
Thank you so much. Good morning. Buenos dias. Bon dia. Is everyone ready for this exciting panel? Yay! Yay! Very good. A lot more energy. It's our first panel. I'm so excited that everyone is here in Barcelona. We're very, this conference is actually one of my very, very favorite conferences. I'm a city planner by background. I worked in government. I have been, between government, business, institutions, and so on. But it's important for us to be able to really focus on citizens and understanding what is it that we need to do to make everyone's lives better. How can we approach better policies, better technology? And so we're very excited to have the panel that we have today. It's a balance between businesses, institutions, and government and NGOs. So please allow me to introduce our panelists. We're going to have a few questions, and then we're going to open it for a discussion in several ways that we hope that you as an audience can have a great takeaway, take some tools, feel empowered to do more and more every day. So to my right, we'll start with la alcaldesa, the mayor of Managua, Nicaragua, Reyna Rueda Ortega. Mayor Rueda is in her second term. She was actually the vice council of the city council, and before then she was vice mayor. She has been really actively in government and is very, very, very determined to make the life of her constituencies better every day. Right next to her, we have Sameh Wahba. He's the Global Director of Urban Disaster Risk Management, Resiliency, and Land, so everything under the sky at the World Bank. Dr. Wahba has a PhD from urban planning from Harvard, and he actually manages over 200 projects for the World Bank with a $30 billion in financing in 60 countries. Very, very, very impressive as always. To his left is Miguel Gamiño. He is our Executive Director and Vice President of Global Cities at Mastercard. He leads Mastercard's global activities across the entire world. He really drives himself in creating a better civic, better efficiency, inclusivity, and equality across Mastercard. So we're very excited to have him as well. And to his left, we have Anthony Salcito. He's the Vice President of Education for Microsoft. Which he's leading the execution of all the programs for education. And before then, he was the general manager for education across the US. And close to my heart, Anthony actually led a very great, wonderful program in Philadelphia, yay, Philly, which was the School of the Future, a very pioneering project that really changed West Philadelphia. And I was a planning commissioner at that particular time, and I really saw the differences that education and business and corporations, when they work together, makes a huge difference, especially in our young kids today. Very excited to have him as well. To his left, we have Renata Avila. She is the Executive Director of Ciudadanía Inteligente in Santiago, Chile. She is an international human rights lawyer and has been a member of the World Economic Forum on Council on Human Rights. You came the furthest. You came all the way from Santiago, which is a long, long ways away. So we're excited to have you here as well. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to sit down. And I'm going to go ahead and ask my panelists. We're going to start with this row right here to my left to give an overview, right, of what the programs, what are some of the policies, some of the ideas and programs that you have been doing to be able to engage your citizenry in making a city more inclusive. Entonces, para empezar, voy a ser de traductora, vas a tener unos 4 minutos para poder enseñar a nuestra audiencia qué tipo de programas, qué es lo que ha hecho la alcaldesa de Managua en este periodo para poder crear una ciudad más inclusiva. Así que le doy la mano a usted para podernos enseñar un poquito.
Okay,
Muchas
claro
gracias.
que sí. Buenos días a todos y a todas. Realmente nos sentimos muy agradecidos por la invitación Realmente estos espacios son espacios de compartir, de aprender y de intercambiar, que es lo que estamos haciendo cada uno de nosotros en nuestros países, pero sobre todo el mejorar condiciones de vida, que el objetivo es esa como gobiernos municipales. Los gobiernos municipales realmente son un muro de contención a las problemáticas sociales. Todas las personas quieren que se les resuelva los diferentes problemas que se dan en sus comunidades, y nosotros como gobierno municipal es un compromiso. Pero cada uno de los esfuerzos, políticas, proyectos que nosotros llevamos a cabo, no solo como gobierno municipal, sino que trabajamos articulado con nuestro gobierno central, es para mejorar las condiciones de vida de la familia. El centro o el universo de todos los esfuerzos nuestros va vinculado estrechamente entre la comunicación con la comunidad, que al fin y al cabo son los protagonistas de cada uno de los esfuerzos que uno como gobierno municipal y central establece o realiza. ¿Por qué digo que el universo tiene que ser las personas? Porque no podemos pensar en ciudades inteligentes, modernas, transformadoras, sin poner en primer plano lo que es el ser humano, en todo caso la familia. Y eso se enfoca cada uno de nuestros esfuerzos. Parte de los programas puede ser la recuperación de espacios que nosotros hemos hecho de inclusiva, donde toda la familia se convoca, se reúne para compartir. ¿Por qué digo que el ser humano es un universo? Porque al final, por muy moderna que sea una ciudad, si no ponemos en el centro al ser humano, entonces no estamos haciendo el esfuerzo que deberíamos de hacer por tener familias más felices, por tener familias satisfechas, que al final ellos son el termómetro o la medida que nos dan a conocer a nosotros si estamos haciendo bien las cosas o si no. Entonces nosotros recuperación de espacios de recreación y esparcimiento, inversión en salud, inversión en educación, inversión en seguridad, sobre todo como país y como municipio. Eso establece unas familias más estables emocionalmente, y eso lleva a crecer, dinamizar la economía en cada uno de nuestros municipios o países en este caso. Pero el modelo que nosotros impulsamos, nuestro gobierno impulsa, es el de convocarse todos para ver qué hacemos entre todos, qué problemas podemos resolver entre todos. Y el modelo de inclusión, modelo de diálogo, modelo de consenso, los proyectos nos ponemos de acuerdo con la comunidad o las familias que son los protagonistas principales. Por lo tanto, cada uno de los esfuerzos que todo municipio, todo país debe enfocar es hacia la familia como centro o como universo.
Perfecto, muchas gracias, alcaldesa. Sameh?
Thank you, Natalia. Good morning to you all. At the World Bank, our work is driven mainly by our twin goals, which are basically ending extreme poverty and boosting shared prosperity, meaning improving living conditions for the bottom 40% of the population. So our work in general is very much focused on people and on making the world a more inclusive place. Within urban areas, our portfolio is focused on the agenda of urban inclusion significantly. So we've developed a framework that looks at inclusive cities, and it aims to tackle 3 types of exclusion that face people in urban areas. The first is spatial exclusion. This is the lack of access to land, to housing, to infrastructure, and to services, which disadvantages poor people in urban areas. The second dimension is lack of access to economic opportunities. So that's tackling economic exclusion, which includes also access to transport and mobility in order for one to be able to access job opportunities. The third dimension is social exclusion, which is voice and accountability, and how do we make cities much more inclusive and empowering for the population. Now, translating that into investments, we've got about $6 billion worth of investments every year in urban development that focuses on advancing these objectives. And at the same time, we have a group of cross-cutting commitments that guide our entire portfolio at the World Bank. One of these is our disability commitments. So, according to the WHO, 15% of the world's population lives with a form of disability. So, and this figure, including, the dimension of aging within our society, is also going to be increasing. So, We have 10 commitments that the World Bank has taken last year to advance the disability agenda and to mainstream basically universally accessible design across our portfolio. That includes education projects, it includes disaster risk management, including reconstruction of public facilities, it includes mobility, it includes social safety nets. We also have a new gender strategy that focuses on ensuring access to assets, access to economic opportunities, access to human endowments, and enhancing women's voice and representation within local government. Now, with all these dimensions, they cut across our entire work, whether it's in urban development or otherwise. So with the sum total of these investments and then the belief that we have that ensuring inclusion, ensuring that we create cities that are inclusive, that cater to everyone, that leave no one behind, that's what drives our work at the World Bank.
Great, thank you. Miguel?
Yeah, thank you. It's fantastic to be here. I've been here for several years and I've watched the conversations evolve, right? Evolve from this technologically focused view on how to improve cities to a shift, I think very appropriately, to the people that live in those cities. And how is the stuff that we're doing, all of the stuff that's going to be discussed here, the stuff that we're doing at Mastercard, the stuff that we should be doing together, how is that landing on the people that are in these cities? How are we mobilizing our assets and our talents and our resources to actually create a more inclusive life and outcome for the people in the city? So that's just one thing I wanted to kind of say outright is I'm thrilled to be a partner and a participant and an active contributor to this evolution of the conversation. At Mastercard, we're really taking that on head on, and what you see out here called the City Possible Plaza is the manifestation of our view on that, which is we should be gathering people together and hearing what it is that would impact their lives positively. And not just some people, but all people, right? This circle of opportunity should be one that everyone, everywhere can walk through. And so I think that ethos is first and foremost important. I'm blessed to be part of an organization that believes in that to its core DNA. And so we are not just mobilizing our resources into cities kind of uninformed. We've taken a very intentional approach, creating the community of cities globally that's now nearly 70 to be part of this community called City Possible, but also activate relationships with the private sector partners that we have partnerships with or can build new partnerships with, the NGO community that has a very important role that we will never fill, and academia, right? There's an important component for academia to play in that. And so through this construct of multi-stakeholders, kind of the partnership of partnerships or the community of communities, I think we've been able to really trigger or instigate some important conversations that really are delivering on that objective to be people-centric. We've had over 200 activations or engagements over the course of 2019 in 50 countries with over 300 city leaders. And this is just the beginning. We launched this program in its current form officially right here on this stage, wherever this stage was, a year ago today. And so that's tremendous trajectory, and it's thanks to the organization that's committed to this approach. It's thanks to the relationship and the trust we've created with cities and all those partnerships that I've described. The result of that is that we now have kind of very specific focus on transit and mobility because it is an inclusion tool. It's not just about making buses and trains run better, more efficiently. It is often the lifeblood of people from one part of a community to access another part of the community. You might live one place and have education or work opportunities someplace else. So mobility, I think, is more important to the fabric of inclusivity than we realize. And then we've used data and city insights to better express the impacts of those decisions. And then thinking very thoughtfully about there's 1.7 billion people, I think, on the planet that are financially excluded.
Yeah.
Before we even got into this specific cities conversation, our company committed to taking on including 500 million of those people in the financial system. And there's roughly 1 billion people who are don't have a formal identity. And so now in the city's frame, this is where the cities is where people live. It's where they're migrating. By the size of a full Singapore every month, they're moving to urban centers. So we're really focused on that. My team is focused on that as the venue of opportunity to have impact at scale across all of these different measures.
Perfect. Thank you, Miguel.
Thank you.
Anthony?
Well, I think for Microsoft and for the most inclusive cities in the world, it starts with mission. At Microsoft, our mission is inclusive by design, and it's to enable every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. And the word every is critical.
Yeah.
And to do every, you've got to be inclusive. After mission, it starts with culture. Embracing an inclusive culture where every employee has a responsibility to embrace an inclusive behavior, starting with growth mindset, thinking about inclusive responsibility in product design. And that's leading to a range of solutions that we're enabling through our products as well as our partners and our ecosystem. Many city designers and planners have been dealing with very similar issues for centuries. Housing, transportation, health, education. We're at a time now where the promise of technology is starting to match not only the aspiration of what cities need, but actually creating new opportunities to embrace inclusiveness. Partners like MoveIt, who are enabling over 500 million people to find a way to transport throughout their cities, are embracing inclusive technology to help people who previously couldn't get to work because of vision impairments or physical impairments, actually use technology to navigate, leave home, and get to work. When cities start to think differently about technology, there's amazing things that can be possible. But it starts by building a foundation for thinking and strategy. The dynamics of scale that have driven city expansion with rapid urbanization around the planet are different now with technology, and certainly as we address the over 1 billion people on the planet with a disability, we've got to think differently and create new dimensions. Microsoft is excited about what we're really partnered with G3 ICT to deliver a smart city innovation maturity model assessment toolkit, where city officials like you can all go through the steps that you need to assess where you are, where you need to go, and how do you think about strategy and technology to help you get there.
Excellent. Thank you, Anthony. Renata?
Well, I'm thrilled to be the only member of civil society here because I get to show the citizens' side in a more closer way. So I lead an organization called Ciudadanía Inteligente, and we do three things mostly. We work with citizens. I think that you all talk about financial inclusion. We work very hard for democratic inclusion because we think that democratic inclusion is a big deficit and a big debt and a big problem that we have in society today, especially at the local level. If you look at the numbers of voters in local elections, if you look at the level of engagement of citizens at the local level, it's really, really low. And also, our concept of citizen is not only those who can vote, it's those who inhabit the city. So we have designed programs for children. We think that children and the youth have a very, very important role in shaping our cities. Our cities are their cities. And somehow I think that many of the things that we see here and that we see in the main programs of mayors and so on are designed for adults, for grown-ups, for those economic active part of society. We also take care a lot of senior citizens, migrant citizens. We enable them by providing them tools, not only to participate and to connect with the authorities, but also to hold the authorities accountable. And that's part of the magic. Part of the things that we do with citizens is a mix of technology. We develop tools, for example, tools for participation during the elections. In between, we supervise the commitments of the authorities. We provide a system to blow the whistle, basically, on the authorities. So we do all these technology tools. But we not only work with citizens, we also work with governments. And that's part of the main focus of our plan in 2020. We will work with 200 mayors in Latin America. We want to train them. We want to train them both in the technologies and the techniques to get a democratic society in this century. We think that we cannot open the next frontier of democracy will be the interaction of technology, cities, and the citizens. And we have a deficit on the participation because neither, with all due respect, the authorities nor the citizens understand the implications of this digital transformation, which can really provide a good result for everyone, but it can also, it's very dangerous. We are at a crucial moment where this digital transformation can lead to unexpected exclusions. And the difference between a bad policy 10 years ago and a bad policy today is that we are automating these solutions in a way that can horizontally affect a lot of people. So that's what we are doing. We are trying to provide both tools using the best of technology developed by us, or also awareness on the technology developed by others, and literacy, so people, everyone, authorities and citizens can understand the dangers of all of this.
Perfect. Thank you so much for really highlighting that. Because in my organization at the Radical Exchange, we have created ways to look at quadratic voting, quadratic financing, where the citizen has a bigger voice in voting, and we realize that technology is useful, but there's gaps, right? And some of those gaps are created sometimes because we only concentrate on certain demographics sometimes. But I think what we're trying to do, and what Miguel had said earlier as well, is like, we look where we started. I mean, I remember when I used to talk about sustainable transportation 15 years ago, and they thought I was crazy. I talked about green building, and no one wanted to build a green building. I talked about green jobs, where we were trying to get, and everyone thought, this lady is crazy. Now today we have a different conversation, and on that note, I was part of the negotiation of the Paris Agreement, where we finally came to an agreement where we created the Sustainable Development Goals, which took a long time. It's been from 1992. I mean, I remember from the time in Rio to 2015, it took a long time for us to talk about how do we create a more inclusive, fair, and impactful society. So on that note, I'd love to get your thoughts, because we all come from very different backgrounds, on what resources, I mean, you talked a little bit about policy, but what resources does your organization think they'll need in order for us to get to that, the accomplishment of the Sustainable Development Goals? What type of policies? Because here we have, a global institution, the World Bank, sets a lot of policies, working with all the different governments together. From a business perspective, you all touch different countries. From the government perspective, what type of resources do you expect from each other? What type of policies would you like for us? Because you have to understand that we have over 100 cities represented here, and I want for them to take some tools back of what they feel they need to do as citizens in order for them to start thinking for the next 10 years. So we'll start, we'll start with Sameh. Can you take the lead on this one, and then después lo traduzco.
Excellent. So I think the first thing we need is really strong data and analytics. I think if we don't have metrics, if we can't measure impact, if we can't measure the depth of the challenge, it's very hard for us to be able to propose any sorts of solution. So for instance, as part of the emphasis that the World Bank has on the issue of human capital, and basically we have a human capital project that looks at 5 metrics related to health, education, and stunting to try to measure the depth of the gap from what would create, if you will, an able and productive society today, to try to help address these types of challenges. Now, how can we harness also technology in order to be able to enable us to avail that data and analytics is also a critical point. So, for instance, in some of our work in cities that lack data, in cities that do not have the expensive means to make surveys, for instance, in Port-au-Prince in Haiti, we've used cell phone data records to be able to map mobility across the city, to understand mobility patterns, to understand where people live, where people work, the distances that they commute, and the types of challenges that they have. And it enabled us to understand basically the challenges to the labor market that result from a lack of access to mobility. So any policies that we're going to have are going to have to be driven by data and analytics in the first place. And in this regard, technology is a critical enabler in this regard, to ensure that we can bring citizens and understand their needs. So for instance, in a city like Tbilisi, Georgia, we've done work to using social media feeds and semantic analysis, we could understand how people are using public space so that we can adapt the design of public spaces to better match the needs of people. In a city like Dar es Salaam, a city that is floods basically year in, year out, we lacked all sorts of flood mapping in a city that has never had that, and we could bring citizens, 20,000 of them, to each contributed to updating the flood maps of the city of Dar es Salaam. It was actually, they updated it on OpenStreetMap, and it was the most active community in the world at that time. Being able to update this flood map enabled us to start thinking with the citizens, how can we do a participatory design in order to resolve issues of flooding, to figure out where can we do preventive resettlement of the houses most at risk, and how can we integrate infrastructure and open spaces and housing development for the city. So for me, first and foremost, data, analytics, and harnessing technology in order to be able to provide the information that serves for evidence-based policy making is the most critical underpinning. And then after that, of course, we need to be focusing on dimensions of human capital, endowments, focusing on people, putting people at the center, focusing on resilience. It's particularly critical, in a context of a changing climate, and the impacts of climate change are most felt on the poorest and the most vulnerable populations. Yeah. So it is the poor people who actually live in the flood-prone areas because they cannot afford the land and housing in the more settled areas, so they go and live close to the jobs in places that are the most vulnerable. So being able to incorporate resilience and strengthen the dimensions of climate change within our development projects becomes a critical underpinning. But last and not least, you'll need growth at the center. You're not going to be able to do all that if we don't have the foundations for economic growth that could, and then we're ensuring inclusion and ensuring resilience. We have that compendium of policies that allows us to achieve our twin goals of eliminating poverty and boosting shared prosperity.
Thank you. That's exactly to the point of when we talk about education, right, Anthony? To what Microsoft is doing, not only from a data analytics, but how do we approach education, building the skilled labor? Because right now we have a big deficiency of skilled labor who understands or does data analytics. So how do we, Anthony, if you could talk a little bit about what you're expecting as far as policies from governments where we can actually facilitate those analytics, or what Microsoft is doing.
I think we're living in an incredible inflection point with the availability of cloud platforms to help with scale and ease, the availability of large data sets that have been previously unmined and scattered across city systems, some that were hard to discover, hard to define, and the convergence of algorithms to help with AI. And AI is really a game changer with this environment. But it requires a new way to think. At Microsoft, we embrace an ethical responsibility foundation with AI and create policies in place to provide transparency, oversight, security, inclusion by design in our AI tools. Governments need to be more mindful of policy and regulation on the use of AI as we address solutions that will help every citizen, to enable and unleash the data that we have in our cities to provide real insight for people. It requires a rock-solid commitment to understanding where data is being used. How do you apply technologies? Now, everything from language translation to the way in which we use computer vision to help with security, IoT sensors on cameras that will help with a public safety official in a city. These technologies can enable new experiences for our citizens, but we've got to be mindful of this. From an education standpoint, Microsoft has been very, very focused on actually helping city leaders with tools to understand the ethical and responsible use of AI. We actually have something called AI Business School, which is a course and series of modules in partnership with INSEAD to help government officials build an AI strategy and AI policy framework for their city. It uses examples from cities around the world and a case study in Espoo to understand how they think about the practice and use of AI. We're thinking about this at very young students as well. Next week at Hour of Code, hundreds of millions of students around the world will work with AI on disaster recovery in Minecraft. So we're building the next generation of city planners and officials and first responders using technologies like AI to use insight to help all citizens.
Wow, we can actually use Minecraft for a good solution. That's great. Because I see all these kids using, diving into Minecraft, and I'm like, how do I get them into climbing trees? But that's a great point. I never thought about that. AI is a little bit, when we talk about AI, I try to talk about the positive part of AI. And here in Barcelona, as you know, we have the Mobile World Congress. And so the Mobile World Congress created this new think tank called the Digital Future Society, which is actually looking to how this is going to be implemented. It's a brand new think tank. So there's a lot of great conversations of where do we create standards, are there ethical standards that we can copy from businesses and so on. Renata, on that part, how is Santiago, Chile dealing with this?
It is very interesting because, you have all seen in the news Santiago burning, basically. Yeah. And we have two offices, one in Rio de Janeiro and one in Santiago. And it's very interesting, the parallels, because I'm always worried about my staff in Rio de Janeiro because it's a very dangerous city. And Santiago, it was this oasis, this peaceful place, as the president was claiming. But what we noted is it is not only about providing tools of surveillance and control in a space. It's about also giving citizens the infrastructure for citizen participation. And that was the failure point of Santiago, because there was no way for citizens, especially young citizens, to speak out and to say what was making them angry and to connect with those responsible to fix it. You saw the results. So what I wanted to say is that we have discussed a lot about citizens, crowdsourcing, crowd mapping, and doing a lot of things, but the approach is still a lot top-down. We need to fund efforts bottom-up. We need to invest. We need to create social innovation funds with our municipalities, because we need to not only delegate and allocate the responsibility of functions of the state in citizens, but if they want to help and if they want to create, they need resources and they need infrastructure to make it happen. But the second point I want to make on the AI line is this will be the big, as I was saying, democratic challenge, and I have 3 conditions. Not without us, not behind closed doors or black boxes, and this time, women need to take a part on this.
Yes.
And the problem is that AI, everyone loves AI. AI is the buzzword. And women are completely excluded from that. And even the level of participation of female engineers is really low. And it's not only, usually you said, but we have a woman in the AI team. And it's either the communications person, marketing person. We need women designing the tools of the future. I think that's. a must. And at the foundation, we have an initiative called A+ Alliance, aplusalliance.org. You can check it later. And we have a series of recommendations on how to make it. And we need to start as soon as possible. And we are starting actually at the local level with municipalities. We want to integrate teams, mixed teams, because municipalities are starting to use AI and automated decision-making on big issues, especially social protection issues. What we are trying to push is that integration. So this time, we co-design a good future, a better future, a future with women included.
Perfect, I appreciate that. Alcaldesa, ¿alguna de las políticas públicas que usted espera de los ciudadanos, de corporaciones o instituciones globales, qué espera usted en unos 10 años o algo así, que puedan ayudarle a usted a poder continuar haciendo una buena labor como alcaldesa?
Así es, bueno.
Un momentito, if you don't understand, there's these right here to translate, okay? Just in case. Y siendo mujer, nuestra colega Renata habla sobre cómo la mujer tiene que ser parte de todo este tipo de políticas públicas.
Así es, claro que sí. Bueno, en nuestro país hubo un estudio internacional en equidad de género y estamos en el tercer lugar de equidad de género, donde las mujeres estamos en puestos clave. No solo municipales, el 60% del gabinete de gobierno lo componen el 60% mujeres. Por una iniciativa, por una ley en el 2012, el 8 de marzo, que el 50% fueran hombres y 50% fuera mujer. En mi caso, soy mujer alcaldesa, mi vicealcalde es varón. Esa iniciativa de nuestro gobierno ha ayudado que la mujer siempre ha tenido esos talentos, siempre ha tenido el potencial y ahora lo estamos demostrando porque la capacidad la tenemos, pero la oportunidad a veces es lo que nos limita un poco. En el caso de nuestro gobierno nos ha abierto las puertas, ha impulsado lo que es la mujer al frente porque reconoce que tenemos capacidades y muy buenas nosotras las mujeres. Y no queremos decir que es una competencia entre hombres y mujeres, realmente hombres y mujeres nos complementamos. Entonces, nuestro gobierno con esa iniciativa es por eso que tal vez estaría un hombre frente a ustedes hablando y no una mujer, en este caso gracias a esa voluntad política. ¿Qué esperamos nosotros? ¿Qué espero yo como alcaldesa en el futuro? Tenemos retos y retos muy serios y aquí en la mayoría de los países son comunes entre nosotros los diferentes problemas, el tema del medio ambiente, el tema de la basura, el manejo de los desechos sólidos. ¿A qué aspiramos a 10 años? Que tengamos una inversión en un estudio de la matriz de transporte para mejorar las condiciones de vida de la mayoría, ¿verdad? En el caso de Managua, otro problema que nosotros tenemos en el manejo de los desechos sólidos, tenemos un relleno sanitario que ya está llegando a su vida útil. Ya tenemos nosotros 3 años que nos quedan para que siga funcionando ese relleno sanitario. Por lo tanto, es una preocupación nuestra de adelantarnos, no solo cuando nos llegue el problema. La prevención para nosotros es vital porque el buen manejo de los desechos sólidos y es la disposición final la que nos preocupa. Entonces, ese tema es común en nuestros países, por eso estos espacios, como decía, es un espacio de intercambio que se está haciendo en otros países que podemos nosotros realizar de acuerdo a nuestras características y de los recursos que obviamente son limitados y tenemos que hacer prioridades. Y por eso para nosotros es vital lo que es la participación, lo que es la democracia directa con la población, la articulación, porque de ellos emana la sabiduría, los aportes, lo que es el aporte también del ciudadano, que podemos hacer en los proyectos que impulsa la municipalidad. En el caso es la matriz de transporte en el futuro y lo que es hacer un nuevo relleno sanitario.
Muchas gracias. So the mayor talked a little bit about how do we create and recycle, how do we get to the point of having they're reaching capacity as far as disposal of waste, right? And I'll give you a brief example. In Honduras, I remember when Walmart, decided we're going to go ahead and use recycled materials, and all of a sudden there was not one can on the street, not one plastic bottle, and they had created a whole new economy, a recycling economy. And why is that so important? The importance is that people, what they want is jobs. They want financial security. They want to be able to say, I'm making a couple bucks a day. How do so I can feed my family, so I can educate my family. And to Miguel, to your point of financial inclusivity, right? Mastercard has a lot of great programs. How are we reaching folks? The fact that we now can pay everything. We can have, from cryptocurrency to points and everything to be able to buy Pampers, or buy milk in several countries. That financial access is so important for today. For a woman that before didn't make any money, but she can refer points to her peers, and her like is worth something. We're talking about figuring out ways that influencers become more influential when it comes to financial inclusion. So if you could just talk a little bit about what Mastercard is doing and what you're expecting from like future policies, or what would you like for institutions or governments to support the financial goals that you all have?
Yeah, I think as I was listening to everybody's comments on this, the word that kept coming in my mind was intentionality, and being intentional, right? I don't think that we're going to do much beyond talk about these things if we're not intentional about the actions we take forward towards these things. And so Mastercard has done a number of great things to move that mission forward, whether that's access to financial facilities in emerging markets so they can put products on their shelves that can be delivered to the local communities in ways that couldn't be done before without a very intentional use of insights and data and ecosystems and partnerships, right? So it wasn't just a matter of bearing tools. It was a matter of having a plan for the product you were building, the outcome you were working towards. And so I know that's very conceptual, but I think it's a very important kind of ground truth that we have to recognize, that we have to be intentional in our direction and in our path, and we have to be inclusive in the participants. Absolutely, gender equity and inclusivity needs to be part of it. Frankly, so does other forms of diversity. People from all kinds of different backgrounds, by definition, have different perspectives to lend to the equation, to the solution. And I think only when you do that will you, what we call make tech work for people, which is to pivot this away from the value proposition of a tool into the impact delivered to the people. And so we've done a number of those things, as you've referred to, in emerging markets. Truthfully, back to the topic here is of the urbanization. There are millions of people in very well-developed, very fortunate urban centers that are not connected to the internet, that are not banked, that are not identified, that lack the basic things that probably I'll go out on a limb and say everyone in this room takes for granted. Yep. So how do we think about those outcomes? How do we align that it's not just the private sector, it's not just academia, it's not just the government, but coming together. This panel needs to not just be diverse for the sake of talking from different perspectives. Okay. This panel needs to be a working room for the sake of diversity, diverse contributions to a better outcome. So that's I think, what I took away from all of these perspectives, every bit of it is true. How do we take it off this stage, mobilize it into action, and do it in a way that keeps these different perspectives together as we head towards impact for people in every corner of the world?
Very good point. Does anyone have any comments? Because please feel free to jump in. It's so important for leadership to say, you know what, we need to work transversal. We really need to break down the silos. When we went in the Obama administration, we thought we're just going to apply technology to everything and everything's going to be efficient, and that was not the case. But we tried to figure out ways that we needed to just simple things like talking to each other, meeting once a month between the different departments and agencies to build the economy. That was the big goal. Is like we can't be trying to grab and be, oh, it's my agency or it's my department. No, if we don't work together, then we don't fix the bigger, we don't take action, which is really important.
And I think,
Yeah.
just the one last point to that and to your earlier point is I think whether it's sustainability in the environment or the responsible use of data, the way that we accomplish that is that everyone has a pain point to be solved. And so this is a matter of everyone having something to gain from it also. People are going to act sustainably. Some people will just, organically care about the planet and make better choices for the sake of the planet. For better or worse, most people are going to have to be motivated somehow. It's going to have to benefit them some way. And so how can we come together and to the point is ask them what is it that can be done to make your life better by way of the application of data or whatever. And then that's how I think you get buy-in and participation and all those sorts of things. Sorry.
Go ahead, Anthony. You want to say something?
Well, I was just going to add on to your point around the way in which we need to think is people-centric and people-first. The dynamics of city officials with their own sort of data silos and fiefdoms is not the way people live in cities.
Right.
Exactly.
I've grown up and lived in a city my entire life, and I don't see services as siloed by different individuals and CIOs and IT departments and planners. I think of the way in which I navigate throughout a city, so I want those services connected. We have a different opportunity, though, with data to bring use of data in situations now where agencies will leverage the power of AI to support services that include all citizens in different ways. And we're working with cities like Chicago and Mexico City, Guadalajara, who build inclusiveness design, and the first thing that they need to do is do it across agency, bring everyone and all stakeholders together with standard policy and practice, because an inclusive path from home to work, where not everyone is aligned, doesn't work. You have to bring this across institutions, so that mandate needs to come from the top, but everyone needs to be a stakeholder to the change.
If I may add.
Sure.
So, many of the cities that we work with, and irrespective of, if you will, the level of GDP per capita, many of the cities we work with do very much sectoral planning. Sectoral planning that's siloed within sectors and within jurisdictions. So when you look at the metropolitan region, and we've worked with many of them, and to give one example, the Rio de Janeiro metropolitan region, that's 19 municipalities. And the process of producing the capital investment plan for the Rio Metro region was until 2012 a sectoral planning process, meaning every secretariat produced the list of investments. These are the housing investments, these are the water and sanitation investments, these are the transport investments. These were not spatially coordinated. So it could be that each one is investing in a different direction on the city. So being able to pull this together and being able to help the city come to a process of spatially coordinated capital investment planning where all the investments are mutually reinforcing, where one can think of a problem across jurisdictions and not within jurisdictions, then you get the power of planning. And data can be a great enabler. It's not going to solve the jurisdictional coordination problem. That requires really, pulling together the different stakeholders. When you look at a problem like flooding, many of the cities we work with, have a flooding problem, so you solve the flooding problem by building flood canals. Now that alone is not enough, because usually there's a solid waste management problem underlying it, garbage that's not collected. There's an urban encroachment problem, for instance, that people are living in flood-prone areas that's further compounding the problem. So problems are also multi-sectoral, and they require that ability to work across stakeholders to be able to solve these types of challenges with data, with technology as an enabler.
And it's a domino effect, right? So I know we're running a little bit out of time, but the domino effect is something that I think what we need to as thought leaders, as audiences, what are those, what are these fantastic ideas? What is it that we need to be able to accomplish? Take this from, 2012 is when we were starting to talk to each other, right? And figure out these jurisdictions can be overcome because there are obstacles. Borders can be obstacles. And now we're thinking so globally and regionally that what one city does versus the other, if we work together, that works better. And so if we could just have a 1-minute statement if possible, of what do you expect from, like you said, Miguel, we need to take this and take action. What type of action do you want us as an audience, as an institution, as corporations, do you want to take away and make sure that people understand that is key for the next decade of us building better and more resilient cities? How do we have that conversation between technology? How do we figure out citizens to be at the center? It's a lot of big topics, right? And we're trying to solve all of it, try to solve the entire problem of the world in 1 hour. It's tough. But if we can say in a minute statement of what do you expect, what is it that you want the audience to take away, and what do you challenge them to think about?
Okay, we know that technology is biased. Let's shift that bias for good. Let's use it for affirmative actions, like horizontal affirmative actions to include those left behind, to include those left out. So concretely, let's use affirmative action to include women in the next generation of technologies and technological interventions at the city level. That will transform our cities, and that will, let's say, settle a little bit a historic debt that cities
Perfect.
have on us. Yeah.
Gracias, Renata.
We talk about the workplace changing, and that change is really in how we work, but it fundamentally means that we've gone from a workplace where employers are receiving talent to a workplace where employers need to find and search talent. So the skills agenda, an inclusive skills agenda, is the most important thing that a city needs to do as they prepare for the future, because cities not only need to attract people to want to live there, but understand the talent that's within a city. We often talk about a talent crisis or talent gaps around the world. There isn't a talent gap. We have tremendous talent inside classrooms. I'm about to go into schools in Barcelona to meet with some amazing kids. I see it every day. There's no shortage of talent. We've got to connect opportunity. That's where inclusion comes in, because we're missing a significant voice. 1 in every 5 people in cities is disconnected because of an accessibility or an inclusion issue. And if we can unleash that talent, we can put that talent to use to solve the challenges that we're facing. And emerging technologies like AI and quantum computing will address the future, but we've got to unleash the talent in our classrooms today to make it happen.
Excellent, thank you. Miguel?
I think recognize that cities have more in common than not, and that means the challenges and the opportunities. So I think my call to action is to not believe that you're alone, and that's why we've created this venue for cities to come together and share solutions that have already occurred, mistakes that have been made, so that everyone progresses more quickly. I think there's a sense of urgency that is emerging. I think there's a shortage of resources. So how do we come together? There's an identified need for capital in cities to help mobilize these solutions, but how do we get them to come together and do that more efficiently, more effectively, and build relationships with the other sectors to accomplish that? And so it's not a commercial, but it's an invitation. That's the venue of trust that we've created to try to help stimulate that, to help accelerate the progress.
Perfect, thank you.
So the premise of the city today is one very much about density, agglomeration, increased productivity, knowledge spillover. So the logic being you solve the congestion forces, congestion, pollution, lack of affordable housing, etc. You get a city that functions well. The city of tomorrow is going to be very different from that. I mean, the future of work will make it possible to work from everywhere. The future of networked infrastructure is no longer the case. I mean, you're going to have basically microsystems, you're going to have the waterless toilet, etc. You no longer need to be connected to a system. You no longer need to be in a certain place to connect. So it will be about diversity, it will be about inclusion, and it will be about livability, to be able to create the city that attracts the workers, the labor force, the skilled people, to be able to aggregate and make that city function better. So these will be the drivers for the city of tomorrow.
Perfect, thank you. Alcaldesa, en un minuto, ¿qué espera usted que podamos hacer como ciudad? ¿Qué espera del futuro para su ciudad?
Bueno, como decía, nosotros estamos llenos de retos. Primero, todo empieza con un sueño. ¿Qué queremos para nuestra ciudad? Y eso tendríamos siempre que consultarlo con la familia, porque a veces nosotros como servidores públicos, no funcionarios, porque eso hace como que hay una pared entre el ciudadano, ¿verdad?, y su funcionario. Así que nos llamamos servidores públicos y tenemos comunicación directa con la población. Esa vinculación no podemos dejarla nunca, porque de ellos, como repito, emana la sabiduría. Nosotros se nos ocurre como servidores públicos planear un proyecto desde un escritorio, pero al final tal vez hay una insatisfacción, creamos más bien, con ese proyecto en una comunidad. Al consultarlo con la comunidad, nosotros nos da la pauta para desarrollar juntos nuestra ciudad. Nuestra ciudad iba creciendo después de las eventualidades naturales y provocadas. Nuestra ciudad estaba creciendo de una forma irregular, de una forma desordenada. Por eso nosotros hicimos un plan maestro de desarrollo urbano donde visualizamos al 2040, y eso incluye con factores importantes como medio ambiente, movilidad, el acceso, la inclusión, que es a lo que nosotros estamos aquí, como cada uno de nosotros en diferentes funciones. Al final es la satisfacción ciudadana, mejorar condiciones de vida y por lo tanto la inclusión de todas y todos para crear una sociedad mejor. Realmente estamos claros y debemos estar claros que en la familia es donde se crean los valores y que entre todos y todas, ¿qué podemos hacer por nuestra ciudad? Cuando nosotros creamos ese plan maestro con ayuda de cooperación japonesa, fue un éxito porque realmente consultamos con la ciudadanía y se hizo hasta un concurso de dibujo con niños de preescolar, de primaria y secundaria. ¿Y cuál fue la sorpresa? Que desde los niños pequeños hicieron un dibujo cómo querían su ciudad. Y ahí van los elementos que nosotros como funcionarios o como servidores públicos, como equipo de trabajo municipal, habíamos visualizado lo que es lo que le mencioné anteriormente, lo que es transporte. Crear condiciones, modernizar nuestra ciudad desde el punto de vista tecnológico, pero ¿cómo puede ser que tengan acceso la mayoría, sobre todo los de menos recursos? Nosotros esos espacios que recuperamos de esparcimiento, todos tienen los parques, con las ayudas de las instituciones, porque eso es un éxito también, lo que es la interacción o gestionar recursos entre las instituciones o el trabajo vinculado o articulado entre las instituciones, nos dan la pauta a nosotros para crear condiciones. En este caso, apadrinamiento de las instituciones en algunos parques donde la mayoría tienen Wi-Fi. ¿Qué significa? Que la mayoría tienen acceso a la tecnología, y eso nos da personas más educadas, el acceso a la educación, porque hay tres cosas vitales en una ciudad que no pueden faltar: lo que es la educación, lo que es la salud y sobre todo la seguridad.
Perfecto.
Eso nos da el éxito en todo.
Muchas gracias, perfecto. Please join me on giving a round of applause to this amazing panel. We hope you have a wonderful rest of the day and keep dreaming of better cities every day. So, muchas gracias.
Gracias.